Justice for all.
So I'm gonna restate that. So we called the meeting to order just for the recording, for those at home. So we called the meeting to order at 6 p.m. We moved into executive session to talk about the East Lyme Administration Association contract. We called the meeting back to order at 6:12, and we just did the Pledge of Allegiance. And now we are open for public comment. Is there any public comment? Or any public comment? Okay, hearing none, we will close public comment. We have some minutes to approve from the October 16th meeting. Any comments or changes?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the October 16th regular Board of Education meeting. I'll second.
Further discussion? Although, for the Zoom, if you could do either put a thumbs up or use the emoji thumbs up. Yeah, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstain. Okay, so Jill,
They all
Laura
gave
and
thumbs up.
Elisa all thumbs up. Yep. Okay, so those minutes are approved, and now we move on to special recognition, and we have our Viking Valor Awards. I'll turn it over to Jeff.
Yes, I'm going to turn it right over to Mrs. Kelly. Excited to present these this evening. So, Mrs. Kelly.
Thanks. Good evening, everybody. It gives me great pleasure tonight to present Maggie Gross as a Viking Valor recipient. To best describe Maggie and the work that Maggie has done, I have to go back a few years when, due to the departure of one of her colleagues, she graciously took over the NEASC chair just prior to our first in-person visit from NEASC. Following the visit, she led the school and the community in developing the vision of the graduate. And throughout the pandemic, as well as through her own personal hardships, she continued to keep us organized in preparation for the 2022 NEASC decennial visit, which, as you all know, went very well, largely due to her work. And when somebody does a great job, we have a tendency to give them more to do. So at the end of the 2022 school year, we asked Maggie to not only continue in her role as CIL, but also take on the job of math coach and testing coordinator and teach a class. But the 2022-2023 school year did not unfold as we had hoped. Two of Maggie's colleagues experienced horrific personal tragedies that required them to be out of school for extended periods of time. How did Maggie respond? By personally supporting her colleagues, coaching the long-term sub, teaching some classes herself, all while she was learning to be an instructional coach, serving as the CIL, managing the ever-changing landscape of college board testing. She also worked tirelessly with Kim Reith to develop excellent professional development for our teachers and explicit instruction. We're only 2 months into the school year right now, and we're already indebted to Maggie for her work this year. She has once again jumped in to teach a class for a colleague who still needs to be out. She continues to coach fellow teachers and long-term subs and develop professional learning modules. And most recently, she conquered yet another version of the PSAT for our students and staff. Maggie Gross.
Annalise does a lot of work with Maggie in the curriculum, so I know
I'll
she
take a hug too.
as well. And if everybody else is hugging, I'm gonna hug too. So.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for everything you've done for this this district and this high school. We appreciate it all. And we have a certificate on behalf of the district and the high school, and we want to present you with that. And we got to get a picture of something. Jamie's got it. Okay, come out of here. Deb, come on in, Deb.
You
Thank you.
need to get the East Lyme banners.
I know. Thank you, Maggie.
Thank you. Thank you.
And Maggie, I know your family is with you. If you want to introduce your
Yeah, this is
family
my
members.
son Reed and my husband Daryl, who obviously know how much work the last few years have been.
Thank you for allowing her to do all she does.
Congratulations.
Yeah, well deserved.
And we have a second presentation. According to Merriam-Webster, valor is defined as strength of mind or spirit that enables a person to encounter danger with firmness, personal bravery. We often use the term valor to describe someone who has been brave in the face of battle. I get a little emotional about this. Our next Viking Valor recipient is the personification of that definition. Cecilia Pritko is a hardworking, dedicated teacher who has worked tirelessly to improve our computer science classes since she came to work in the district in 2018. During that time, she was also diagnosed with terminal cancer, a battle she has faced with tremendous grace and strength, but it has not slowed her down. Cecilia not only continues to teach with great passion for her students and her content, but she also goes above and beyond her daily responsibilities. She's attended the CampNet Pathways presentations on cybersecurity after school to help inform her instruction. She's the advisor of the Women in STEM Club, and I arrived at the dance the other night to see her here to chaperone the homecoming dance. And she does it all with a smile. To say that Cecilia is an inspiration to all of us would be a tremendous understatement, but I don't know that there are words to describe how amazing she is. As her colleague shared in her nomination, I have had the privilege of working alongside her and see how she inspires our youth, not only to pursue their dreams, but also to face adversity with grace and dignity. On behalf of the East Lyme High School community, I'm honored to recognize Cecilia, not only for being a wonderful teacher, but also for her valor, for her strength of spirit and mind in the face of her battle. Cecilia? Thank you.
There is no one stronger that I know than you. And for all you've done, and all you continue to do, and all you will continue to do for our students. So I'll present this to you on behalf of the district,
All right.
High School. All right, your husband Chris wants to get a picture, so why don't
Oh,
we this
all
way? And then we'll go over to Jamie. How's that?
Okay.
Let me hand that to you. Deb, you want to come on in? Deb? You're welcome. Let's just turn this way and we'll.
Move it.
There you go. Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thank
Thank you very much. And then did you want to introduce your family as well, Cecilia?
Yes, I got everybody at a practice today. Since I'm always supporting them, right?
That's right.
So my husband is here with me. He's my rock, and my children, Julian and Carolina, they are my pride and joy, and my beans are sunshine. Congratulations.
Welcome to go home, so you don't have to stay here.
We'll make practice.
So please feel free, yeah, to.
Thank you. Thank you again.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
It's.
Myself. Henry, you need to stay right now.
It's right now.
Well, that was so a nice way to start the meeting. Congratulations to them both. We'll move on to special reports, and we have Daylin, our student representative.
Okay, so Spirit Week was last week. Seniors came first, juniors second, sophomore third, freshman last. The East Lyme High School Drama Club is putting on the Lair Main Project, November 9th to 11th at 7 p.m. Winter sports registrations have opened up. Homecoming was October 28th last week. Picture retakes are this Wednesday on November 1st during the lunches. There's no school on November 7th because of Election Day. SATs occurred on October 18th. Senior Ronan McNamara won ECC Athlete of the Week for football, and senior Skylar Bell won Game Time Athlete of the Week for volleyball. She set a new school record of 1,022 digs that was previously held by her older sister Madison Bell. Miss Buckley's biology honors class went to Project O at Avery Points. Students attended EMS/Fire Pro Expo at Foxwoods Casino for Miss Toronto's Emergency Med Tech ECE class. The Veterans Day Assembly will be held November 10th with both students and teachers speaking. Yearbooks are on sale, senior picks are due November 1st. The Powder Puff game or flag football is November 21st at 6 p.m. with the class of 24 versus the class of 2025. And Senior Safe Grad is doing a fundraiser with Panera, and they'll be doing a bake sale during election day, and then they'll be fundraising at the Powder Puff game too.
How was the Culture Spirit Week? How was everybody feeling?
It was good. It was very fun. Especially the pep rally. The pep rally was really good.
Culminating event, yeah.
Good job covering it all. It was good.
Great job. Thanks so much.
Running out of here, she's like, I'm
Yes.
out. You don't have to tell me.
Yeah. We don't have a selection.
No, we reached out.
I reached out,
Okay.
I haven't heard anything. I don't, Aunt Keller, when I had a long talk about it, she said she doesn't know why people aren't coming, I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, October was Roseanne, that's what they had told me to.
I'll check the count again, it's November, I think.
Yeah. Okay, so we do have a consent agenda item. I'll make a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda as posted. I'll second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Dust around, all around, opposed, abstained. And just so everyone knows, the consent agenda was simply, we had already approved the Bermuda trip, the out-of-country field trip to Bermuda for the I always forget the name of that. Marine biology, yes, thank you. And they just moved the dates by a couple days, so we just wanted to make sure that was approved. Okay, so now we're moving on to our discussion action items, and the first topic is discussion information, East Lyme High School enrollment and course offering report. And I do know we have cookies that were voted.
We have, over here, we have some different pieces of work done by, various classes. There's Spanish class stuff, English, German, construction, pieces from archaeology. Show you the anthropology class does, the yearbook, the print shop, and cookies from the culinary class.
Well, thanks. We want to get video of.
Grant, can we, the camera?
Facing me.
Can we move it to the artwork and the,
Oh,
we show-
may you show
can we
that?
show that?
Show that? Yes, to give a,
That's one.
there we go.
great,
Thank you.
okay. Then we can go back, but want to give everyone at home a chance to see it. So, thanks,
You guys wanna-
yeah, thanks, Greg.
Move to the front. So before.
Move back to the front.
All jump at once. By yourself. Jump at once. This is like not the most convenient, but,
You wanna move the podium?
no, the podium is fine. We just want to be able to
I
advance
want
the slides, but, well, hello again, everybody. We're here tonight to talk a little bit about course enrollment and course offerings at the high school. And before I get started, I want to thank our committee, which a few members are here, Mr. Kidd, Ms. Singer, and Ms. Belisle, but there were a number of and Mr. Place. Oh, he's joining us. And Mr. Place, a number of teachers, it's in the presentation, as well as a parent and a student that worked with us. We started working on this at the beginning of the school year, and we've met every week or two in between there to talk through some of the issues that came up, and we'll get into some of the other things that the committee did as we go through. I also, well, we handed out the student work when we get a chance to take a look at that. Before we talk about specific course offerings, I wanted to provide some context about who we are as a high school, what our goal is in educating our students. And as a comprehensive high school, we have the responsibility of preparing all of our students for life. We have a population of diverse students with diverse interests and abilities, and our job and as we state in our mission, is to prepare students academically, emotionally, and socially to be positive forces in the world and to live responsible, purposeful, and healthy lives. In addition to our mission, we're also guided by our vision of the graduate, which is relatively new. Put this together in 2019. I believe some of the members of the board were part of that. So through their coursework, as well as through their out of classroom experiences, we want to make sure that all students have an opportunity to develop these skills. And if you look at these skills, these are not necessarily content driven, but they're really life skills. These are the things that we want kids to be able to do. So we have a responsibility then to make sure that we're offering the courses and the experiences, whether that be through co-curricular or sports or whatever, to develop these skills. And we have to provide that for everybody. We have to provide equitable opportunities for hundreds of unique learners and provide them with a wide variety of experience so that they can develop these skills. So let's talk a little bit about how do we figure out what we're offering. And we're going to start with Ms. Belisle talking about graduation requirements.
Sorry, quickly before you, do you want questions in the, wait, at the end?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lisa Belisle, and hello to everyone at home. I don't know if I'm a mover. Just letting you know, any opportunity for the camera. I am a school counselor at East Lyme High School. I have been here for 17 years. I have become the curriculum and instructional leader since 2017. It's been great talking with you over the years, and I am here to review our graduation requirements as there has been several different iterations since even 2017. Our graduation requirements at East Lyme High School align with the Connecticut state requirements. Those have changed. With our incoming class from 2019 to 2020, so that's our graduating class of 2023, there have been new requirements from the state that essentially guide how we are setting up our school graduation requirements. These state requirements are in two specific areas primarily. The first being humanities. This primary category consists of 9 credits, 4 in English, 3.5 in social studies. This includes a civics class. And fine arts. To get to 9 credits, we are left with a half a credit. And sometimes when I'm talking to students, I like to talk about it as a half a year or a block, a semester, and humanities. That is the first primary category of the state graduation requirements that we have adopted here at East Lyme High School. The second primary category is in STEM, another 9 credits. So what we're looking at here are the areas of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. At East Lyme High School, that looks like our science classes, our vocational education classes, and our math classes for 9 credits there. So the breakdown for East Lyme High School, 3 years of math, 3 years of science, 1 credit of vocational education. Just so you know, vocational education can consist of any of our technology classes, our family consumer science classes, and our career education classes. And then we have 2 STEM credits that need to be filled to meet that 9 credit requirement. Additionally, we have a wellness requirement, 2 credits there, 1 credit in health and 1 credit in physical education / wellness. So what we do is make sure that all of our students enter with a freshman wellness class that kicks off that credit, and they continue with freshman physical education. Then with health embedded into each class, they have the opportunity to take half-year classes throughout the remainder of the high school tenure to get the 2 credits in wellness. World language, our school requirement is 2 credits. This is where we're slightly different than the state requirement. The Connecticut state requirement is 1 credit. However, in the state website even says it is beneficial for students to have a minimum of 2 years of a world language for state and university purposes. So our requirement at East Lyme High School is 2 credits. We also require a mastery experience. For us, it's the Viking voyage. At the state level, it's a mastery-based diploma assessment. So that is a requirement statewide, and how we are portraying that at East Lyme High School is through our Viking voyage program. So what we're looking at is the state would like all students to have a minimum of 25 credits for high school experience. With all these requirements in place, we're actually only looking at 2 credits beyond what is in place from state requirements for students to be able to select on their own. I remember reading on the state's website to take what they choose. And I'm like, 2 credits out of all the students to take whatever you want. So, you know, it's hard. Students have a wonderful 4 years here. It gets summed up in 1 little piece of paper, our high school transcript. That is already hard enough to show the individuality of our students, whether they're going to a 4-year school, a 2-year school, or the world of work. So now, not only do we have 1 little piece of paper, but that 1 little piece of paper has to have all of these requirements on them. I think it's really important to think about that as we're continuing our conversation when we talk about our elective offerings and our course enrollments. So I like to think about it as a piece of pie. Sometimes I talk to students and it's about money in the bank, but it's Thanksgiving season, so we're talking about pie here. Right here, what you will see is a visual depiction of what we are requiring our students to take. So it is based statistically on the percentages that I just went through with you, just to give you a visual. So we're looking at our 4 credits of English, our 3.5 of social studies, our 1 fine arts, and our humanity electives. Together, that's our humanities requirement. My poor colleagues are like, why does she know how to animate PowerPoint now? Everything's gonna fly in for the rest of my career. Just letting you know, they're duck, yeah. Then, let's move on to our next electives. We have our math, 3 years of math, 3 years of science, vocational education, again, that's family consumer science, career education, and our technology classes. And then 2 STEM electives. That is our STEM piece of pie. Our world language, we have our 2 credits, wellness for 2 credits, our Viking voyage. So these 2 pieces of pie left. We have 2 additional electives that the students can take whatever they want with, help from their families and their school counselors and other different influences. But I want to explain this last piece of pie. Our block schedule is set up for students to take a recommended 7 credits a year. If you do the math, that's 28 opportunities to earn a credit. I like to highlight this piece of pie because a majority of our students do actually take beyond our requirement, but still, if you're looking at it, it's not a large amount of pie. I definitely am gonna leave hungry if I only have that little bit of pie. So it's just important to think about this conversation. And you have a lot of information as a Board of Education to consider. And I know that this will come up at different conversations. So if I can just impart a visual for you, please think about pie. And because of that, you're getting your own individual pie. So you can listen, you can take it home, you can put it on your front seat, you can barehand it in the car on the way home if you want to. But when you're thinking about our requirements, if you can just think back that we are really having to have a conversation about our different electives to meet the needs of all of our wonderful learners at different levels. So,
Can I ask a clarification question?
Yeah.
Then there's now like a financial literacy, personal finance course that's going for like. Maybe incoming freshmen, I don't remember the exact. Is that in the pie you showed, or will that be another?
That would be another pie piece.
Okay, so it's even further restricting. That 2 electives will go down to 1.5.
Especially since the state is saying that's a humanities elective.
Oh, okay, yeah, oh, okay.
Interesting, right? Wrong piece of pie. No, yeah, your heart's set on one pie, yeah.
It's another chunk of pie.
Yeah, I know.
Thank you.
No problem.
The wellness, is that like PE? Is that what we're?
Yeah.
Okay, just wondering.
Yep, health and wellness and PE. So again, here's a visual of a block schedule. If we're looking at a traditional student schedule, you can see that a majority of it is going to be taken up by what they need to take each year. And where they have opportunities for an elective. We really support students and advocate for students to take a study hall because in that time period, they can practice other skills, advocating for help, time management, networking, talking to teachers. So when you are looking at a block schedule, it's really important to see that although we have 8 blocks, we are usually having students take 7. A factor to also consider is that grade 12 does have the option to have a senior privilege. Some have the opportunity, if they choose, to have 2. So some of our students are looking at a 6-credit schedule for grade 12. They use that sometimes to go to work. It's usually a conversation that is had between their counselor, family. But it's just other facts to consider when we're talking about all of these classes we have to offer that aren't offered every single block of every single day by every single teacher. And now a picture of prime rib. No, I'm kidding. So, can you imagine like coming to every morning? Career concentrations. It is important to discuss that when counselors are meeting with students, when teachers are talking to their students, we like to help them have autonomy in their course selection process. We do so by offering opportunities to take a career concentration. This is a wonderful program for a lot of different types of students. You have students that are going to go your traditional 4-year university route, and you have students that need something just a little bit more to push them to feel like they are getting the support they need and driving towards their post-secondary goals, whether it's work, whether it's college or university. So what we have is a growing list of career concentrations. We're at 14 concentrations. And what this is a list of different electives that students can take throughout their 4 years, that when they graduate, they get an endorsement on their transcript indicating that they have a concentration in a particular area of study. For the right type of student, this is a wonderful motivator. It's an opportunity to say they have a major, if you will, in high school when they're talking about their next steps on their journey. To show you what that looks like, this is a image of our allied health career concentration. I do want to point out that it's interdepartmental. This is a collaborative process that works with representatives from multiple departments to make sure that students aren't just sticking on one track and taking one type of elective. In fact, they're taking multiple. It could be in humanities, it can be in science, it could be in math. We direct them towards different classes based on a concentration that they might be interested in. So remember that 2 credits, we're also trying to guide them in a way, but sometimes there's just not room. Sometimes there's just not the offerings, which is why our concentrations are growing based on the areas of need and what our students are taking. A little bit about a timeline of when these conversations are happening. I feel as though students get here, they get comfortable, and then all of a sudden we're talking about next year. At the very beginning of the actual calendar year, 2024, our program of studies is available for families to review with students. That is when we are getting paperwork, we are making sure that students are thinking about what they want to take the next year. Then, oh, we're not on that slide. Did I get click happy? Sorry about that. Sorry for people at home that had no idea what I was talking about. So the program of studies is finalized in January. Then we start the recommendation process where our teachers are having individual conversations with students, recommending their next academic level for the next school year. It's not just about a level conversation. They are much deeper conversations than that. What do students want to do when they're graduating from East Lyme High School? What do they want on that transcript that makes the transcript look as pretty as possible? It's one snapshot. We need to make sure that it's diversified, that it's challenging, of rigor, but that they're masterful in that transcript. So those conversations are paramount. Once that's happening in February, counselors are then, it's more of a counselor-driven process. Counselors are meeting with the middle school and making sure we're talking to the rising ninth graders about different options that they're going to be able to have at the high school. Then students are able to electronically select their classes in our advisory in the month of March. And it's already kind of done before Q4 as far as recommendations go. Now, it is fluid in the sense that conversations can continue, but as you know, from a fiscal landscape, it's not as fluid as we would like. There's decisions that need to be made. So we really try to have those conversations as early in the year as possible. But if you think about teenagers, they change their mind every week. So we try to make sure that we're still educating them on opportunities and doing the best that we can. Now the master schedule timeline, I'm also going to make sure that Deb is alongside me because she does a lot of this work with the curriculum instructional leaders and with our registrar. Because once the recommendations and course requests are in electronically, numbers are generated. And starting in the month of April, the schedule is it's begun to be run. So I don't know if you want to jump in or if you want me
The
to.
first thing that we do is after the counselors have finished meeting with all of the kids and we have what we could consider a draft of numbers. I meet with each of the department chairs to talk about what are we going to offer? What do we have the teachers to offer? What do the kids want? And it's really kind of a supply and demand conversation of, you know, what is it that they've signed up for? What do we have the opportunity to offer? We play with those numbers for a little bit through April and in May until the budget passes so that we're sure that we have all of the resources that we think that we need to run the schedule. And then it gets really busy in June, so we don't do a lot in June. But then over the summer, Cindy and I go through and we try to run the master schedule. Now the master schedule is technically run by Infinite Campus. But we put in all of the parameters, how many sections we're offering, which teacher is teaching which section, which classes can't run at the same time, because if this student is in this class, then they need to be in that class, they can't be at the same time. And once we have the framework in there, we run the schedule a couple of times. In the Infinite Campus runs it so that it is prioritizing the requests of the students. So that's what generates, that's the algorithm that's used to determine what's offered when. And I mean, we decide how often it's being offered, 2 sections, 3 sections, 1 section. It decides when it's being offered. Now, that doesn't mean that everybody gets what they want. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in a little bit. And then in August, Cindy spends a lot of time going through each and every teacher and each and every course to make sure that every teacher's schedule is balanced. Infinite Campus doesn't know that they have 3 classes on one day and 2 classes on the other. So sometimes it puts 4 classes in one day and 1 in the other. She has to fix that. That impacts what has been run. And then she also balances so that there's not 20 kids in one class and 2 kids in another class. She goes through and does all of those numbers. We release the schedules to the kids about a week before school starts or right around freshman orientation.
So we are in talks about courses and recommendations for about 9 months out of the year. And they are layered conversations. They are personal conversations. Each meeting with a student, and every counselor is meeting with every student in the school from the months of February through April to make sure that we are having those conversations and making sure we're getting teacher feedback. Because also there might be class suggestions that change. So all of this is a layered process, but it's a conversation that takes up a lot of our year that we take with every cell in our body. We make sure that we're having these conversations with our students to make sure we do right by them. So that's the timeline. I hope that this gave you a better visual of what we're working with when we talk about graduation requirements. It's our job to do right by our students and produce a product that helps them get to their next step. And that product is a transcript that shows what they can do in a diversified way that they master. So with that being said.
Grant, you coming? I'm Lori Singer. I teach chemistry on the department CIL for science. I'm also a parent of two recent graduates. Grant and I think are very similar in that we're both CILs and parents of recent graduates. So you want to start? I can start, that's fine. So we're here to talk really about what the course offerings are and what makes East Lyme unique and why we really appreciated having this program for our kids. When you have the slideshow later, if you click on the program of studies, it goes through everything we've got there. For the sake of time, we're not going to go through the program of studies today, but we do offer a lot of different classes. I think what Grant and I wanted to really sort of focus on today is sort of the unique offerings. I mean, everybody offers biology and chemistry and algebra, but East Lyme does some really incredible things otherwise.
Yeah, a lot of those classes, when you get to that third or fourth level of high school, that junior or senior year, are classes that are designed for those students with that intrinsic motivation, or it could be family pressure motivation, peer pressure motivation, or they just looked at high salaries in whatever career they want to go into, whatever their motivation is, and they start going into those classes. And sometimes you can't populate a class like that with a lot of kids because they're moving on. Unlike, say, the elementary school, that when they are passed on to the middle school, they know exactly what curriculum they're going to go into. The middle school knows exactly what they're doing when they're passing the kids up to the high school. We really don't know what we're passing them on to. A lot of them will be accepted into college. A lot of them will go into career. They may go to military, but outside of that, they have to have something, hopefully they'll fall back on. And some kids who do go to college change their major, often don't declare a major until their junior year. And so a lot of these specialized classes that we have are engineered to either provide immediate feedback to that student that, yes, this is a career path that I want to take, or two, this is not a career path. They might take some business classes, as my daughter did, and they may find out that they don't want to be an accountant. They may take a medical science class and go, I am not fit to be anywhere near medical science. They may take a lot of those. So it's not just we want to make sure that they know what they want to be. We also want them to know what they might not want to be, to save parents money, time, expenditure, when they go out into the world to find a career.
So the next couple, that's right. Just some pictures of things. We obviously have a theater appreciation class. This was relatively new, a year or two ago. A lot of kids really enjoy it. We've got construction class. You see some of their amazing work over here. I think I have a set of cornhole sets that they made. Do some great things. They also recently built the stage for the new music, the new play coming up. Our marching band, which is small but incredibly mighty. That's a lot of hours of work they put into that. Our anthropology class, I don't know if anybody else has got something like that. I mean, I don't know where else you can go out and dig and actually do those amazing things. There's samples over there. We've got many music classes. Marine bio, you hear about them all the time because they're going out on field trips. Anatomy and physiology, our forensics class, the EMT class, just a great plug there. I mean, I think we're saving kids thousands of dollars. If they had to take that class on their own, it's a fairly expensive thing. And we're allowing kids who maybe don't have several $1,000s to pursue a passion here, which is really fantastic. I had the opportunity the other day when we were putting up the flags outside, a couple of the kids from the EMT class helped me. They were so darn proud of the fact that they were in that class and that they were going to be EMTs one day. It was really it was beautiful to watch because they were really excited about it. Yes, we have ceramics. We were back one more. We have our
It doesn't want to go there.
Okay, we had the ceramics class. There's ceramics, there's the birth to 3 class, the preschool class, our catering and hospitality, who had the wonderful cookies they made for you. Birth to 3 preschool baking, it's the law, the CAD class, exploring computer science, all great classes. I want to reiterate what Grant said about the specialized things. Just with personal stories, I've got 2 kids. My older daughter graduated in 2019. She is currently in her first year of teaching music outside of Cincinnati right now. One of the best things this place did for her was offer AP music theory. I think there were 9 or 10 kids in her class, small class. Maybe you didn't get a million kids for it, but music theory in college, when you go to a conservatory, is you must pass with a certain grade or you don't get to be a sophomore. And her classmates spent freshman year in terror that they were going to have to be on the 5-year plan. Sarah walked in and did amazing at music theory because Mr. Mays does a beyond amazing job of teaching. For her, it allowed her to know she had 4 years to be set up so that she was really solid. And again, it was a small class, but for her, that class made all the difference in college because it allowed her to start with a really strong foundation. My son graduated in 2021, I think. He's exactly what Grant said. He walked in here not knowing exactly what he wanted. I would have bet you money as a freshman that he was going to be a journalist. He took 2 years of journalism and said, I love writing, Mom. I will never be a journalist, though. Not my thing. That saved us a lot because he then knew to look at STEM schools, not at journalism schools. He's in a place that absolutely fits him to a T because he had the ability here to explore a whole bunch of things and figure out where his passion was. None of us would have put any money on STEM when he walked in as a freshman, but he got to do all those great little classes and walked out going, no, I know what I want to do. And this is where I need to go to school. So for us, those little classes were amazing. I mean, I'd love everyone to take chemistry, but I recognize that some of these other classes for some kids are really, really valid and important.
Yeah, and the interdisciplinary aspect of the concentrations, that they have to go outside of their comfort zone to take classes to get checked off on that, is a way to expose them to other things. So they may be going in that one path and didn't change. My son was set to go off college prep and go to college and all that stuff, right? Midway through junior year, he goes, I'm going to go military. And now he's in his 3rd year of his contract, and we have great conversations about what he wants to be when he gets out. And he goes back to those elective classes that he had at this school, where he says, oh, I really had fun in that. I mean, he loves Mr. King in history, so he will probably go, he would love to be a teacher someday. But in the meantime, he's like, wow, I like this class, I like that class. He was in a couple of productions and stuff. So he's got that well-rounded thing. My daughter was much like Ms. Singer's son, was going in one path. I think it was psychology, psychologist, psychiatrist, one of those types of fields. Switched after she took a business ed class, and it was management, marketing, all of that stuff. And she is just 100% committed to it, loves it. And it just comes from that semester class, which is great. Again, the interdisciplinary, that if they're in that path, otherwise they would not take some of these electives because it's not in their comfort zone. It's not in their wheel well. They know they can get that A+ in this class. They don't know if they can, do well in another class. And by that standard, I mean, get an A or higher. They might be worried about getting a B in a filmmaking class and a shop class and something like that. And a lot of these trade classes that we're trying to promote that might have some small numbers. Just keep in mind, these birth to 3 culinary, and a lot of the construction classes, these are students who will come back and live or not even leave this community. They will be the people that we lived with for a long time. A lot of the students are very best and brightest. They take their high school degree. They take all the preparation that we provide them. They go off to college, and you might see them at the Black Sheep on Thanksgiving once in a while until they are solidly out of town. So a lot of these things are designed to keep the kids that are going to stay here and prepare them so that we're getting the best quality people in this community.
That's, I think, our piece. We just wanted some of those electives, they may seem small in stature, but they really do impact kids greatly. I don't know who's up next. Okay, thanks.
Okay, so going back to developing the master schedule. And I've been doing this for a lot of years now. I think I probably know the history of almost every class in the building. What are the obstacles that we have to overcome? So going back to how we decide what runs, we take the numbers, and with the exceptions of foundation classes, we try not to run any classes with fewer than 10 requests. Now, foundation classes are specifically designed for our neediest learners. These are students that really require more one-to-one attention, typically have an IEP or 504 plan that has very specific things that they're working on. So what are the exceptions or what are some of the things that sometimes come into play? And this kind of goes along with what Lori and Grant were saying. I'll use AP Art as an example. AP Art is a class that traditionally might not hit 10. So what do? Well, sometimes we combine it with advanced art. Sometimes we combine it with 2D art. Sometimes we run it with 9 because for those kids, they need that. They need to develop a portfolio. They are going on to college to study art. Without that class, they're going to go somewhere else and pay somebody to develop that portfolio. So that would be one example of a class that we might say, okay, it's got 9, we're going to run it. But the vast majority of our classes, we will not run with fewer than 10. In this past year, and Lisa probably can rattle this off even better than I can, there are a number of classes we didn't run. One of the classes that came up today, theater appreciation, didn't run for years because it never hit 10. Once it finally hit 10, we ran it, and now kids know about it, so it's a little more popular. We also have to look at staffing. Do we have people to teach the class? And one of the examples I'll use for this year is we did not run Senior Academy because we did not have a teacher to teach it. The teachers that would traditionally teach it were teaching other things that were in high demand. So we had to make a decision, and that was where we decided, well, we're not going to run that class so that we can make sure we run all of these other classes that students want. Again, we have to focus on graduation requirements. So especially in our core areas, if we have a lot of kids that need to take 3.5 years of social studies, we may not offer as many, we may not be able to offer as many psychology, sociology, human rights elective kinds of classes because our staffing and our focus has to be on what they need for graduation. And there are a lot of classes that we will sometimes look to combine in order to allow kids to take that, as Grant said, that next level of a class, that more advanced class. I'll use music tech as an example. We have a lot of kids that will sign up for music tech 1, but then it kind of dwindles down to a few kids that are really passionate about that. So we combine music tech, and the teacher differentiates that so that they can continue taking that a second time. And that would be just one example of that. So that's how we decide what's going to run. And then we hit some challenges. So challenges in planning all of this. One of the biggest challenges for us is the cap that we have to put on courses. So how do we decide what the cap is? First and foremost, room size. I don't know how many of you have been in the classrooms here. I invite you to all come and see. These rooms are very small. This is a very old building. And for the most part, the classrooms are about 25 by 25. When you put 25 adult-sized people in that space with desks, backpacks, bookcases, and anything else that might be in the room, it is overwhelmingly crowded. We are talking about, you walk into a class of juniors and seniors, especially because they are adult size, and you're kind of like, oh, okay, there's a lot of people in here. So that's one thing. Safety concerns are another thing. We have some classes in particular that we have to keep small. Culinary is one of them. By fire marshal regulation, we have to keep that at 19, and even that's crowded in there. Construction would be another class where we do not want to have one teacher with 25 kids and a power saw. So, you know, we limit the sizes on some of those. So safety concerns come into play with some of those. And then the needs of the student. And this kind of goes back to what I was saying before about foundations or B level. Kids in those classes require more of the teachers' time and attention. They're there because they need help with reading, or they're there because they need help with basic math. They're there because they need more than can be taught to a classroom of 20 or 25 kids. So all of those things are put into play. We also have to plan for alternate courses. This year, and I've been keeping track of a lot of data around course selection. This year, when the kids finished their courses and I finished meeting with the CILs to decide what we were running, we knew there would be 350 requests that would not be met. We did not have seats for those kids. So we have to figure out, in some crystal ball that we don't have, Well, where are they gonna go? Those 350 kids gotta go somewhere. So we will kind of intentionally leave what we know are some of the more popular classes with a little bit of space in them, because they've got to go somewhere, they're going to fill up other places. So that's something we have to kind of guess at. We also have to kind of guess at what about our new students? We're gonna have students move in over the summer. I would say on average, we have 25 to 35 kids come in over the summer. We don't know what they're gonna take. So again, we leave a little bit of space. And then we also have to anticipate that there are going to be level changes, whether a student takes an AP class and goes home that summer and does the summer assignment and comes back and says, no way. Or they start the class at the beginning of the semester and they say, wait, this is easier than I thought it was going to be. I'd like to challenge myself more. If there's no room in the class they want to go to, they can't move. So these are some of the kind of crazy things we have to almost pretend. These are some fun pictures of what some of our class sizes look like, and you got a little smattering of Spirit Week in here too. This is a social studies class, science class. I think this is also a social studies class. Here's a construction class, kids using a saw. So you can see they're pretty full. That's really the reason, and that's one of the things that really drives some of our enrollment caps. All right, so now we've determined what to run. We run the master schedule. What are some of the other things that come into play? Conflicts is probably one of the biggest things that comes into play. As I said before, Infinite Campus determines when something's going to run, and they do it based on what is best for the requests that have gone in there. So I will use this as a specific example this year. AP Government, we had 14 kids sign up, and only 9 of them ended up in the class. Okay, why did that happen? Well, it happened because it's at the same time as AP Calculus and AP Physics. And the kids had to choose. And 5 of those students chose a different course. They chose AP Physics or they chose AP Calculus. Not really surprising, because kids that are taking this is probably either their next math class and their next science class. AP Government is truly an elective. You don't have to take that. So now the schedule's been run and we only have 9 kids in there. Didn't know that was going to happen. We could look at moving things around. We offer 19 AP classes. We move that one, it's going to just domino effect, and another class is going to end up with kids not being able to take it. We have had situations where we've had changes in staffing or certifications where we've had to shift things around. And then we do deal, this year was really interesting, changes in enrollment. Over the summer, these are the kids that left. So using just the 9th grade as an example, we had 21 freshmen withdraw. Most of those kids are kids that went on to Grasso Tech or Marine Science Magnet or one of the other magnet schools, and we had 11 kids come in. So we planned for the classes that these 21 kids chose. They're not there, so that leaves open seats, and these 11 kids probably didn't choose the same classes. So we do our best to try to guess what's going to happen, but we definitely don't have a crystal ball. And you never know with the withdrawals what that's going to look like. This is really unusual that we would have 14 juniors leave in the middle of the summer, but it happened. And then after we open, Lisa kind of referred to this, we come back and students change their mind about what they want to take. They've spoken to their friends, they've talked to their college person as far as what's required. They may have done something over the summer that sparked a new interest, or they just plain change their mind and they want to schedule change. Or they have to choose classes to fill up study halls because they didn't get classes they wanted because they were full. And now they have extra study halls in there. And we try to keep kids to only 1 study hall. It's 80 minutes. You end up with 2 study halls in a day. That's 2 80-minute blocks that you don't have instruction happening. And that's probably a little bit more than we hope. We also, other changes are also level changes. And then we had an onslaught of kids that want to either come in late or leave early if they are seniors. And that impacts the schedule as far as what classes are offered, especially classes that are offered 1st or 4th block. So what are we going to do?
All right. I don't have any more food, so it's just. I'm Henry Kidd. I've been here for about 19 years, and I'm going to talk a little bit about planning for the future. And one thing that we can plan on is probably continued change. East Lyme High School is a different place than it was when I started working here. You know, one example, you know, as far as demographics are concerned, When I started working here in 2004, 2005, about 3% of our student population were eligible for free and reduced lunch. We hover a little over 20% now, I think. So that's just an example of one trend amongst many that we need to keep our eyes on as we look to the future, because we have to make sure that we are continuing to engage this changing student population. And then obviously, if the past few years are an example, are any example, obviously, we're not going to be able to always, direct the wind, but we do have to be ready to adjust the sails as needed. So what we decided to do as a committee was make sure that we were paying attention to the students that we have currently in front of us and get to know our current Vikings a little bit better. So we did, in September, we did push out a student survey. Students took the survey in advisory, I believe on September 27th. And I won't go through and read all of the results of the survey for you, but I'll just point out a few things that I think, you should consider. Almost 3/4 of the student body responded to the survey. And we had a significant number of students who reported being bumped out of a class that they wanted to take because it was full. We also had 20% of student respondents say that we don't offer enough classes that align with their interests. And then also roughly 1/3 of our seniors responded to the survey and said that they've dropped classes or modified their schedule because they want to take advantage of their senior privilege. Can't blame them, but that is something that we are, competing with. So just some of the things that I think you should see from the survey there. And then if we break down the survey a little bit further, these are some of those really popular classes that we were talking about that students were bumped from because they were full. There's certain years where I think we could use 3 culinary labs. One, because it smells great, but 2, also because there's a lot of student interest there, ceramics, culinary. So these are some of our greatest hits that really we can't get it, the kids can't get enough of. So just high demand classes that students report being bumped from or not being able to take because the course sections were full. And then, breaking down the survey even further, the column on the left-hand side are, what students responded they'd like to see more of. So it's not that we don't offer courses in those areas, trade, shop, the new EMT course. Obviously, we offer lots of science and social studies classes, but if you dig down deeper into student personal responses, there might be a kid that took modern world history with Mr. King or Mr. Reed in their freshman year, but they're looking by their senior year to take something more in depth. Maybe they want Southeast Asian history or something like that. So just looking to, as we look to the future, consider ways in which to expand what we already do offer. And then over here on the right are courses that are frequently requested that are not offered. So, as you all know, I think Mr. Pasulo is doing some work to expand our partnerships with the greater Southeast, community, Southeastern Connecticut community, to give students some more opportunities to get some experience before they graduate in these different areas. And then, did I skip a slide? I don't think, no. So overall, if we're looking at really what we learned by asking our students some of these questions, one, it would be great if we could offer some more sections of some of those really popular classes, but also continue to find ways to expand our course offerings or opportunities for kids in these areas of high interest, like nursing, medicine, and engineering. And then also we observed that students aren't necessarily fully aware of our offerings. We do a lot during the course selection process. We have teachers that put together commercials on the morning show to advertise their courses. We have flyers up. Obviously, they meet with their counselors and their teachers individually. But we talked a little bit as a committee about changing our PR strategy a little bit in the build up to that course selection process to make sure that students are aware of the diversity of what we do offer, because we do offer quite a bit. So those are some of the things that we learned from talking to students. So as a committee, really looking forward here, and if you go back to the beginning of our presentation to what Deb talked about with our mission statement and our vision of the graduate, I don't see a world in a future where that mission statement or that vision of the graduate and those soft skills that we're pushing students to develop those are always gonna be relevant. What we need to make sure that we're doing over the course of the next few years is continuing to look at the ways in which we engage students as they develop those soft skills. There's not gonna be a world where you don't need to be a productive collaborator or effective communicator. But the ways in which we engage students as they develop those skills, that's what needs to continue to evolve here at East Lyme High School. So, you know, continuing to develop curriculum and staffing of courses that are of interest to students and, you know, continue to evolve based on what's going on in the world. Where we don't have the appropriate facilities here, continue to explore those opportunities that Mr. Fasulo is developing with the Pathways program. Better informing students of our course offerings and the diversity of opportunities that we already do offer. Ongoing redevelopment of the course selection process, getting input from teachers, students, continuing to do things like this survey to make sure that we're building the best schedule for the most number of students. We're not necessarily going to be able to every year make all 945 some odd students happy, but the best schedule for the most number of students. And then get creative with the FTEs that we do have. You know, we know that season to season, the budget presents difficulties, but with the teachers and the FTEs that we do have, find ways to use teachers to make sure that students are getting their interests met. So I think we learned a lot from this process overall. I think that we have a wider range of things that we offer, but it's just a matter, matter of continuing to look forward and evolve as things change, which we know that they constantly will continue to do.
Questions?
First, just thanks, this, really comprehensive analysis. I could tell a lot of time and effort, so really appreciate, we all, I'm sure, really appreciate what you've done. So let me open it up and see.
Candace had her hand up first.
Candace, Bill.
Thank you. So yes, your presentation was fantastic. I keep going back to the little piece of the pie.
Knew it.
Because what I've gotten towards the end is we're going to have to be incredibly creative on our offerings in that little piece of the pie, right? And we have to work around a tremendous amount of regulation and things that are put on more and more and more on our students. Which isn't the best, that's not great. But I think at looking at different, how do you do that? So are there opportunities to offer classes, maybe not in person, but online or in some sort of fashion like that versus getting rid of something? I don't know. That's a question for you, I think. How can we look outside of the box to try to keep our students engaged in things that they love? So we have like a well-rounded student, right? I mean, it's not all about all these, I don't know, I just think that that's kind of hard. So I just wanted to note it, and I hear what you were saying throughout your presentation. So I thank you.
There are conversations out there about alternative ways of providing classes, so that's definitely.
Engaging in them now with regional approach to some of that.
Oh, okay.
Not just that, in conversations with other area schools, I'm in touch with, counselors from there. We are pretty much along the same timeline. If you push these conversations much sooner in the school year, it's really hard to, it can be as simple as a student just like, but my friend's taking that class. We're like, but we've been talking about this for 8 months and trying to make sure you get a career concentration.
Right.
So we can't plan for those things, but to your point, those purposeful 2 little pieces of pie there, when they want to be taking so many things and it's not offered at a time that they can, continues to be a struggle. And when you think it could be helpful to have conversations earlier in conversations with other districts, that's not necessarily a solution. The types of conversations with teachers and students are wonderful. Each counselor meeting with the student, it's rhetorical in the sense that there's not one solid answer, but being aware that there's many different things in place
Can't agree more. I mean, we pride ourselves from the moment our children start school here, that we're teaching them the whole child, right? How many times have we heard that expression? And it's really true, right? And then I know that even the development of what we wanted our graduates to look like and what things were important. They weren't these singular things. It wasn't this just one thought, because all children just, they learn differently and they're not going to be cookie cutter, and we're not cookie cutter. So I thank you for all that you do. I know that there's a tremendous amount that goes into the schedules and the blocks and the offerings, and at the end of the day, having children come out with the credits that they need, right? And then still having the experiences, the clubs, the different things that sometimes go on, you know, during the day, that I'm kind of wondering, when are they going to have time to integrate all of these other facets to their blocks if they're constantly in the things that are required? When's the time for the autonomy, I guess, or? For that.
Thanks, Candace. Bill?
I had a couple of comments. When Grant and Laurie were talking about, you know, making sure that we had these elective opportunities so that kids could find their path or find the path that they didn't want to take, which I talk about that. I'm an electives teacher. I know all about, you know, helping kids determine what they do like and they don't, you know, find out that they don't like, to save time and energy in the future, finding their passion. But I want to emphasize too, that sometimes those courses are what really motivate kids to be, you know, coming to school, something to look forward to, that they're excited about. And as developing those soft skills, sometimes that happens in those classes where they're excited to learn versus they're required to learn. So I just, you know, say that I agree with that. I'm embarrassed to ask the next question because I have a daughter who's a senior and a recent grad, but through the course selection process, did my students put down an alternative option for what they wanted for
That's a good
electives?
question. So
Okay.
Infinite Campus does allow them to name an alternative class, but it won't allow us to schedule it. So
Okay,
you can go back in and see. So 350 kids didn't get what they wanted. We can go back into each of those kids and see what their alternative class was. And we do try to do that first. We
okay.
do try to do that. But
Because you had mentioned that, you know, a bunch of these kids were coming up with an extra study hall and then you gotta try to plug them in later. I'm assuming you had
Right.
already looked at the,
we look, that's what Cindy does that through the month of August. And we do look and see, it doesn't mean either that the class ran or that it will fit in their schedule.
Right.
But we try. We do try. Good question.
Thanks, Bill. Let me just, Jill, Laura, Elisa, Lee, if you do have a question, if you could use the raise hand feature, then I can see if you do. And then Jamie next.
So I just want to say that some of my kids' favorite classes have been the electives. I know Ainsley's loving Mrs. Kidd's class, theater appreciation. She's actually getting a love back for theater, which she kind of got rid of during COVID when everything shut down. She shut down, but the theater appreciation class, she is loving it and she's starting to love theater again. So I'm hopeful that she like opens up and does theater at school again. But my question is the Latin American Studies class, which my daughter loved. It was her favorite history class in all of her schooling here at East Lyme. I know that it's mandatory we offer it, but we don't have to run it. Which I think is a shame because it was such a wonderful class. Is there any way that we could get it running every year?
Well, we didn't have enough interest to run it this year. It is one of the classes that we've talked about with the region. Unfortunately, the state won't let us offer it as 2 half-year classes, and that's a real sticking point for a lot of our kids, because when the piece of pie is that small and you have to take something that's a full year, a lot of them they don't want to commit to that because that means they can't take something else. So those are the challenges we have. We would love to run it every year. I think
She
really well.
absolutely loved that class and spoke so highly of everything she learned in it. It's just a shame that we can't get kids to take
And we
it.
do have to offer that class every year in a, one of the things we've talked about is offering some of our classes every other year, or letting kids know that it might not run this year, but hold on, we might run it next year. That might be one of the classes that falls into some of that. But we're not the only school with that challenge. It is come up a number of times with some of the other schools also have
Have we
the same challenge.
reported that to the State Department of Education to see if they.
It's funny, I spoke with Kim Izzo, our CIL for social studies, about that class in particular, and apparently, yes, a lot of schools have said, especially the semester piece, if you could break this into 2 classes, we would definitely have an increase in interest, probably of both classes, just different kids.
We hear that with CAPS too. It's
Would
pretty
you like a
voice.
breakdown?
Yeah.
We offered it the pilot year and it didn't run, we offered it the pilot year and didn't run, and then the year Ainsley took it, it ran. And then,
And that's it.
Yeah.
It's the only time it's run.
If I'm a student wanting to fill my requirement too, I would be much more inclined to take a half year experiment with that type of history, but when it's a full year and that's not necessarily my strength, reading and writing, I would be a little nervous too. So we're up against those conversations as well.
I've actually heard that reasoning in my own household with my senior, the half year.
Yeah, okay. Just like, maybe it's just because she's a history nerd and she just loves all things history, but she has not stopped talking about that class.
I'll give that feedback to the teacher.
I had a few questions, not seeing anyone else. So regarding scheduling, it sounds like we're using Infinite Campus to do the scheduling. And I wonder if there's maybe other scheduling software we can use that might be more advanced. So if you watch any NFL game, you'll always see AWS now does the NFL schedule, which is complex. Not nearly as complex as what we're dealing with, right? The number of variables in the NFL, there's 32 teams and they gotta play each other, right? It's not that complex, it's complex. And what we're dealing with is more complex. So I wonder if, take AWS, or I know artificial intelligence is a bad word often in education, but it can be a good word because it learns. So maybe it can start predicting when you have the conflict of AP, was it AP government with AP physics and AP calc or some, whatever that was, that it starts learning to say, hey, this student who's taking these other classes, these STEM classes may opt for the AP physics or AP calc versus AP gov, and you start predicting. Now, it takes time to learn, so it might take a year, but anyway, it'd be interesting to look. I don't know what other districts are doing. I don't know, but there
Most
might be.
schools do their scheduling through their student information system because that's where the schedule lives for attendance purposes, for everything. So if not Infinite Campus, they're using probably Power School. That's the other big software program. I don't know. I don't believe it would be very easy to import something that something else did. But it certainly would be worth checking out. And
Yeah, I think it'd
I'd be
be
happy to put together the end.
Just, I don't want to, don't. I mean, it'd be worth investigating maybe at a, I don't know where, Jeff, or at this broader, superintendent level or something about. There's someone out there who's developing some type of AI tool that can do scheduling, regardless of not necessarily high school scheduling, but scheduling in general. And is there a way to tap into that? And it might not be in 25, 26, it might be in 28, 29, but that's fine if we're starting to see that's where it's evolving to. So anyway, so that's because the complexity of what you're trying to solve is, it's a complex Rubik's Cube. It's not 9-sided, it's probably like 25-sided Rubik's Cube. So completely understand that. And then just a couple comments that, that you said, and I'll restate because I think Bill said it as well, is just something I say a lot, and I appreciate the presentation, is it's almost as important to learn what you don't want to do as it is to learn what you do want to do. Because it kind of helps you figure out what you do want to do. So all those courses where you say someone takes a 6-month class, a 1-semester class, and they're like, thought I wanted to do this. This is terrible. I never want to do this again. How great is that to know in high school? So it's great that offer those opportunities. So, the breadth of class is important. And we just have to figure that out with also the scheduling and getting the numbers and all that. And I know Bill also had, I think, well, Lime does it. They have the every other year courses to get the numbers up. So but you have to be like, you have to be really explicit that it's gonna be offered this year, so that let's say juniors and seniors, if you don't take it as a junior, you're not gonna see that class as a senior, so you have to take it that. And then that's maybe how you get the, 14, and then as Candace said, if you can do any kind of virtual and you get another district in, then you get 6 in East Lyme and 6 in Waterford and 3 in Old Lyme, and if you can marry that together, now you have a class of 15 students, they're just not sitting all together, but. Thanks, it's interesting to hear the complexity of trying to pull this all together, so appreciate all you do.
Thank you so much for your presentation. I'm wondering about the 80-minute blocks, if like every day you're locked into that, so you have an A/B schedule, right? So why not one day a week? Don't do the 80-minute blocks, do, I don't know, 60-minute blocks, so that you would have some opportunity to have more flexibility, because it seems like you're really locked into big, long periods of time. And sometimes those study halls, 80 minutes is a really long time for a study hall. So maybe those could be shortened somehow. And I also think that the other thing that might be important to consider is what's more valuable for the kid to get the class or for the kid to have senior privilege. And if the child, wants the class, if the young adult wants the class, then perhaps they have to sign up for the class and take the class when the class is being offered, and kind of be flexible for that opportunity as well
And a
too.
lot of our seniors do take classes first and fourth block. It's not everybody though. But for some kids, especially if they have a job that they want to, leave to go to work, or if they see a lot of late arrivals of kids that play sports, because they play sports, they go home to study, and then they get an extra hour sleep in the morning. So, that's really most of what what drives those decisions. But they are teenagers, so
I know, I understand. It's finding, I understand. The other thing is, yeah, absolutely. And then the other thing is independent studies. I didn't hear any conversations around that, and I know that at least when I was in high school, we did have some independent studies, and if there was something that we could pursue, and I was a real strong dance student then, and I was actually able to leave school early to go to a dance academy to take a class, and it didn't count for PE or anything, but it was just a topic of interest because I had more credits than I needed, but and that would probably add to the wellness kind of thing.
we do have, go ahead.
My daughter did one of those in 2019. She was trying to decide if she wanted to be a performer or an educator. And she was able to take an independent study where the band teacher at the time hooked her up with teachers all around the area. So she spent a day at the Waterford Jazz Band teacher and a day at an elementary school in, I forget what district. She went around to visit different exemplar teachers and spent a day with them to figure out if education was something she might want to pursue versus going straight for performance. So there are some of those, yes.
Yeah, and that depends on the student interest and a teacher available to do it. But every year we have a number of independent studies. In addition to things like the science department offers kids an opportunity to be a lab aide. The preschool offers kids an opportunity to be a child aide. If they've taken the classes, that's an advanced opportunity for them to learn more about it. So that it varies year to year.
Sure.
But that's definitely an opportunity. And then I know the counseling office is always putting out information about Connecticut College and Three Rivers programs where kids can take classes on those campuses too.
And the WISE class is, I mean, I've been an advisor for several WISE projects, none of which have anything to do with science, which is kind of funny to me. But I'm always amazed at what our kids figure out and do in these WISE projects that are just mind-boggling. And it's also those soft skills, because they come to me once a week as an advisor and say, this is what I'm doing. Do you have any suggestions, or how do I go about contacting so-and-so? It's all soft skills, because I'm not teaching them any science. I'm just the adult they got to say yes. And the WISE is a really fantastic program for that as well.
Well, I commend you for your problem solving, and it sounds like it takes a lot of tenacity and, attention to that. So
A great team.
great team. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Very much.
Great presentation.
Cookies and pie as well.
Yes.
Keep us hired. Hopefully since it's gonna be fancy time.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, moving on to the next discussion and information, we have the Director of Student Services, Kim Davis, gonna give us an update.
Sorry, I don't have any treats for you. I didn't know that was a requirement for tonight. I can bring the apples around again too. They're still on the tray. They're still on the tray, so. Though I'd be more likely to give you a sticker, given my background history, if you're all good listeners. So I just wanted to give you sort of a beginning of the year update from the Student Services Department. So oftentimes, I think you probably see me and associate me obviously with special education. And that is obviously a large part of my role, but also there are other things as well that I support across the district. So I'm going to start with some of those and then we'll get to special ed at the end. Just to start from the state level, of course, we're still implementing CT SEDS. Things are improving, can be still frustrating at times, but they are working to get the bugs out and we're patiently working alongside them. There's new legislation around secondary transition, which I'll get to in a minute. Staffing is going well for us this year. Our related services are fully staffed. Our special ed teachers are staffed. We have some long-term sub positions. We still have some vacancies for paras. And we had a new high school psychologist begin with us last week based on our grant funding for the mental health specialist grant, which was a competitive grant that we applied to from the state. And so Mrs. Chylowski is her name, and she began on the 19th, and she's already jumped right in and been helping with some tricky situations. And she's also an expert in they use tools now, 2 iPads to help with some of their testing to expedite things and get more accurate data. And we've only been doing that for a year, and she was her previous district's like point person for that. So that is a real coup for our staffing addition. Transportation is going well. First Student has a full staff of their bus drivers. They've had some illnesses lately, so you may have experienced a combined bus route. Bus 17 is kind of our go-to combination, which, you know, some parents might say, why is it always our bus route? What I would say is that offers a little consistency to the inconsistency, because then they know when they're going to ride bus 8 and bus 11 where they belong when bus 17 isn't available, rather than trying to change the route every time. And then you have new kids every time trying to figure out which bus they're supposed to be riding. So if you get any public feedback, I would encourage you to, use that. And they can still contact me with questions, of course. Nursing is going well. We had a series of substitutes at the middle school last year, and now we have a full-time person who seems to be doing great. She's acclimating. This is her first year as a school nurse. She came from the home-based healthcare side, so we're really happy to have her. I also oversee our Bridges Outreach Program, which is Amy Petruzzello and Heather Parsons. You may recognize them, but not the name of Bridges Outreach. And they primarily work with our elementary schools, specifically our, I would say 2-year-old to 5-year-old community outreach. We're trying to make sure kids have a preschool experience if they want one, that they know about kindergarten and how to apply. If they have suspicions about their child's development, that they can be referred to our integrated preschool team. They also ran a very successful backpack drive in August. They organized with other community resources like Karen Share, Sarah Furman over at Parks and Rec, and the library. And they all had tables. We gave away free backpacks that are donated to us by United Way, and school supplies. And then there were other community tables there as well to get information if you needed that. So that's the second year we've done that. And I think it's sticking as a good tradition. So we'll be finding ways to expand and keep that going. Let's see here. So then Creative Play School is going really well, also full. They are jointly participating this year in a play-based learning professional development opportunity that Annalise and I are collaborating on. So several of our K teachers, Integrated Preschool, Creative, and Novas, as well as the Revenue Program, are working with some consultants from EastCon to integrate play with intention in our early childhood programs in support of executive function skills. So goal setting, perseverance, you know, and those other soft social skills, organization, knowing how to find an alternative if something is full. So we've done at least 2 or 3 full days of PD already. The EastCon folks come in and do coaching with the kindergarten and the integrated preschool teachers. And it's a great experience really for everybody. They're all integrating these themes into their programs already, which we feel like is really important because as we know, since the pandemic, our kids have come to kindergarten with a few less of these skills than we would like to see. So we're trying to bolster them early. And we know that play is integral to getting that job done. In the area of our multi-language learners, the state has officially changed the designation from English language learners to multi-language learners. So we're trying to get ourselves into that new vernacular and say ML rather than EL or ELL. And to that end, we are up to 108 students who English is not their first language. We have our 2 certified teachers and 1 teaching assistant serving our population. And we have also really expanded, I guess, or advertised more our use of Language Line, which is an interpreting tool over the telephone. Every teacher has access. So whether they need to call home about a library book or a parent conference or a situation that happened in the classroom, they have a tool that they're allowed to use at any time without any administrative intervention to communicate with families. So we had launched it not last year, but maybe the year before. People were hesitant. Do I need permission? We know it costs money. Is it okay? I'm like, no, you use it anytime you need it. This is your tool to communicate with any family in our district. We can have them video conference in if we need to, like for a PPT, or if a parent, you know, if that's a better tool. 9 times out of 10, the phone call works just fine. And they have like every language under the sun. So it's on demand and no prior scheduling ahead of time is required. So that's been really useful. To support our SEL and the burgeoning MTSS process around behavior, we offer, as you know, the DESA universal screening twice a year. So that's coming up. The first time will be November 6th, and it'll run for those 2 weeks for ratings for the teachers. And let's see, then I am up to IEP. So I mentioned already the play-based learning, professional learning that's going on in integrated preschool, which is going great. They've revamped how they choose centers. The kids they're introducing a thing called a play plan. So what do I want to do? Did I do what I wanted to do? How did it go? How long did I stay there? And they don't have this conversation with every kid, but they can with targeted students across the week. And it's pretty cool. They're also really incorporating lots of what they call loose parts rather than like giving the kids a tea set. They're giving them a collection of buttons and paper plates and recycled, you know, containers, and then have a tea party. And so their creativity and the language that sparks out of like having to invent your own experience rather than just like pouring the plastic teacup. These are the things I'm talking about when I talk about play-based learning. And then a really cool thing that has happened this year at the middle school, our physical therapist has been working with the PE department to make PE a more inclusive environment. We offer, of course, inclusive PE for students who have various disabilities, but we also offer what we call adaptive PE. So completely separate from your PE class with your peers. It's just usually you, a PE teacher, several other kids, and maybe a para or 2. So there were some, I don't know, preconceived notions or worries about safety. And our new physical therapist, Kate Holland, this is her 3rd year, I think, with us, has really just gotten in there and said, you know what, you don't have to be afraid of this. We are going to send you trained adults. We're going to give you adaptive equipment, and we're going to help you, and we can do this. And so we had 2 students in particular that were just so proud of themselves after they ran the mile run. One of them is in a wheelchair, and one of them is a mobile student, and PE is now their favorite class. I'm so excited. So she just sent me an email because they've been spending their whole time on the fitness unit lately. And now they're moving into some skill-based games and things like that. So we're ordering more equipment, which is like a basketball net that might be on wheels that is lower, and some different size balls and those kinds of things. And so Kate's continuing that work at the middle school with the teachers to make those modifications to PE. So that's been very exciting. AIM is now using central office twice a week to launch community outings, and as a home base, they're doing things like working at Flanders Fish Market, which is not new, but it's nice to have a closer home base rather than having to come all the way back to the middle school. They're working with Norm across the street, folding shirts and helping fill the orders, working at Town Hall, Parks and Rec, and the Public Library. I mentioned our new school psychologist. Also big in our world is we moved the therapeutic learning program, as you know, is a specialized program for students with behavior disorders, from Lily B. Haynes over to Flanders, which is going really well. And we have a brand new teacher. She's only in her second year of teaching, but she has embraced the program and she is on board for anything we throw at her. So that is going really well. So that's one last program at Haynes, which is something that we set out to do last year. We also have, if you remember, a few years ago, I was talking about the cohort that was in preschool with a lot of intensive needs, you know, more communication devices, more cognitive disabilities, some syndromes, some different things we were seeing that we hadn't seen in a while in our preschool. Well, those guys are now upper elementary age students. A few of them are in middle school this year. So we moved up one of our ABA teachers. We had 3 at Haynes, and we moved one up to middle school to basically seed the middle school to get ready for incoming kids, but also to service the few kids who have started. And the middle school population already had a few kids on the cusp anyway, who needed a little more than they were getting. So it was a good move. So that actually moved 2 classes out of Lily B. And so decreased their adult numbers in the building a little bit, I think has maybe given a little breath of a little breathing room, right? So that's good, kind of taking a little of the strain off of Lily B. And then at grade 5, with all the new initiatives that Claudine and the team had done to piggyback on that in special education, 2 5th grade special ed teachers are sharing their caseloads before, which everybody's always been, you know, Kiva. And so the 2 5th grade teachers are sharing the students, one primarily focusing on the reading instruction, one kind of focusing on the math instruction. And, you know, they still attend meetings for a certain list of kids, if you will, but they're sharing the instructional responsibilities. And they're bigger caseloads this year, but it's going well. And I applaud their creativity and willingness to try that. So we'll see where that goes. Overall, we have 494 kids right now identified for special education, which is about 19% prevalence rating. So that's where we are.
How many kids on 504s?
504, we have 290.
So say that again, 290?
290 plus 494. Something like that. 784, yeah, roughly, with some sort or another of me. Yeah, and some of our 504s are strictly healthcare, but many of them are ADHD, anxiety, you know, and they vary in their level of service of intensity. So
I really appreciate you using the word inclusion and talking about inclusionary practices and really reinforcing that whole idea that we all belong and that there aren't some people who need to be pushed in to get what they need.
Right.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to say that I really enjoyed the presentation. I know that the workload and all of the increase, I think, over the few years, quite a few years now, has gotten us to a place where you have really been proactive, utilizing resources, sharing, which is really great, in order to get services that are quality to our students. Being a caseworker for the state of Connecticut, I have recently acquired younger referrals, and I've gotten to compare services through districts. And we're stellar. And it's because of you and your team. And you just go that extra mile. And that's what is really needed and appreciated. You talked about some of the proactive work that you've done to lessen the impact at Lily B. So I am aware that the numbers are right at the top level at Lily B. So how much has that, I guess, helped right? So I mean, you said you moved some. What are we looking at for a number at Lily Big? Are you still at that really high end or has it changed dramatically or?
Are you asking generally about our bottom line population or specialty program?
I would, well, the specialty group is part of that number, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So all in is, we're just under 350, just lost somebody Friday, but I think we're right around 348, 347.
Okay, so you're basically maxed anyway. So you were over max.
I would say we are pretty full, but our class sizes this year, I think, we've achieved some smaller class sizes, we, tinkered with an idea about adding an additional section, but didn't end up needing to do that, but we do have a bubble section in our first grade who's got 5. And so, or second grade rather, so they're gonna continue to go up, but for the most part, we're 4 sections across the board. The needs, are there for sure, but.
Got it. And I love the work that you spoke of as Kate Holland. She's come in and she's just hit the ground running. She's incredibly inclusive. That's one, yeah. Thank you. Sure.
It ties with the North Bridebrook and Rocky Neck Village, which I just made a note, I haven't gotten those numbers in a while to kind of see, but North Bridebrook continues to kind of come online.
Right, so that's kind of why I honed in on just
Yeah,
Lily. Everybody
yeah,
kind of knows that, but we've been watching those numbers there. So that's why I inquired specifically when you had said that being proactive and moving some numbers here, there, or the other way. But what did that look like realistically for the infant?
It also looks about, I think, approximately 11 adults less in the building. So that's, big too, just in terms of, keeping track of everybody's, yeah. Paras, teachers, sure. Any other questions?
I had a question, on your multi-language learner group, you mentioned a tool that the instructors have. Is that a two-way tool? Is that that tool?
It's not necessarily, and I've had a couple questions this year about that, like, can a parent use it to call me? And so, no, the short answer. What can we do about that is I'm working on.
Yeah, cause I think that's really important. I know of one story where there was a student who wanted to be on the soccer team and, didn't have parents, actually didn't even have parents. It was aunt taking care of him, didn't speak English. Trying to get this kid onto the soccer team was a big deal because he had no help to get him onto the team. So I know a group of teachers basically kind of paved the way for this kid, which obviously is going to help him learn the language as well, being on a team with other kids. So I just think there needs to be more for the other. I think it's wonderful that we have this and I think it's really good, but I think it needs to be.
That's like the next, yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed, yeah.
We're watching the MLL numbers closely because Kim, and you mentioned we're at 108.
Yeah.
It recommended
Every
40
40.
students, it's another level of teacher support. So we're watching that, just talking
Because
budget for next
that
year.
has increased though, when you
It
had
has.
that number, I
Yes.
remember that
Half
number,
that.
it was exactly.
When I started I don't know if I was coordinator or interim director, we were at about 35. So, it's really skyrocketed in the last 3-4 years.
No,
So,
there's plenty of people who don't speak English right in town.
yes.
Yep, so could be some budget discussions, some support there, yeah. So,
Okay.
Thanks so much,
Thank
Kim.
you.
Really good presentation. It's
Yeah.
really helpful. Okay, no, we need to do a motion to table.
I would like to make a motion to table discussion action item 9A until our next meeting on November 6th.
Just choose.
Got it.
Okay, further discussion? All those in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Got thumbs up all around.
Yeah, 3, right?
So that, I don't remember if I said opposed, abstain. So we motion best, we're gonna move that to the November 6th agenda. Now we're moved on to Mariana to give us a budget update, discussion information, quarterly budget projections for 23-24.
So we discussed these at last week, I think FFO. And so I fixed there was a small error. So right now, I mean, we're really in essence it's quarterly through September 30th. So we've really been in full operation for 1 month considering the schools. So it's a conservative estimate. I have to make certain assumptions at this point in the year. The next quarter to report will obviously be half a year through and it'll be a little more on target. So really, we're not looking at anything that stands out to me. Some of the items that I pointed out, like unemployment, we've had more people filing for unemployment. And unfortunately, sometimes what happens is if someone leaves here, gets another job somewhere else, but perhaps it doesn't work out, or they leave that job, they go back 4 quarters. So if we happen to fall within those 4 quarters, even though they didn't necessarily leave from us, we get charged with some of the unemployment. So we hadn't really been paying much in unemployment. So I had budgeted, I think, a smaller amount, but I think it's gonna, we might go over a little bit on unemployment. You know, there's pluses and minuses. Again, I'm just estimating right now. So I'm right now projecting about a $44,000 available budget at the end of the year. That could change, give or take. I mean, there's certain, last year we had a very mild winter, so we did really well with electricity and natural gas, even though the prices had gone up considerably. We saved on consumption. I don't know what will happen this year. If we have a colder winter, that might change. So I don't know if anyone has any questions for me on any information.
Thanks. So far, so good.
So far, so good. Yeah,
so
we're
good.
certainly in a better position than we were last year.
Yes.
So I think, again, plus or minus, depending on what happens with utilities and things like that, we're in good shape.
Thanks, Mariana. Okay, that closes discussion action items and moving on to administration reports, and we have Jeff.
Yeah, a few items, just to recap, Chris's email going out regarding the budget workshop. Thank you. I think we've heard from most everybody, and hopefully it still works for everybody, moving it from the 13th of November, our first workshop, to the 20th of November. We had a slew of kind of meetings in a row, so we kind of did a little consolidation there. So you saw that new set of meeting schedule, which Chris had shared out. So just a reminder, if you haven't been able to check that yet, please let Carissa know that budget workshop now on the 20th versus the 13th, and our December one still holds on the same date. We'll most likely have that workshop in this room this year rather than up in the library. We'll talk a little bit more about that as we move a little bit closer. We're checking. I know I put out in the weekly update last Friday about the CABE, level 1 distinction. I had forgotten which level we were at last year, and I think it was 2. Eric and I talked a little bit. So we have reached out to CABE to say, why not level 2? There's a slew of districts. If you saw that attachment or the link that was in the update, there's a number of districts on level 1, but I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't it level 2?
I thought we were level 2.
Yeah, so we don't know why, because, we did pretty much everything we did the previous year. So we've reached out to Lisa.
Could just be an error.
Maybe, if that's the case. So as soon as I know, I'll let you know, either probably in the weekly update Friday, if not sooner, if we hear, but we'll definitely clarify that. As we know, Salem is using, or working with, Chris Urban has been for food services, Chris Lund now with facilities. So they've inquired about security and Chris Olson now.
Oh, boy, they're coming too, you know that, right? I'm just saying.
So.
All the years ago.
I did talk to Chris today and you know, I wanted to check with him first with, you know, his level of interest. Now, to what degree, a lot of trainings, making sure that their staff are, staff meetings equipped with procedures, et cetera. So our next step, we'll sit down with Brian, have a further conversation about, what that might entail, and then I'll come back to you all, obviously, cost associated, and we'll go from there, so.
Oh, he wouldn't be taken away from us physically.
No,
Okay,
it would just be a visit, lesser amount than what, Chris London or Serb do. But to just kind of provide and help guide them through, their emergency management plan, development, submittal, review, all of those kind of steps.
We're out of Chris's. though.
We're out of Chris. So Chris London, I mean, just like, all three of you sit in the same car, you just drive up together. It's like the Chris team going up to Salem to help out, but.
You gotta make him like a Chris license plate or
Yeah.
Chris magnets on the door.
Exactly.
Chris mobile.
So, but Chris Olson was concerned too about not being,
Right,
here
yeah.
on site because he does do a lot. So, and that's what would need to be discussed as to when, where, how much, how often. So much more to come on that, but just wanted to share that out. And then also, for Energy, you just handed me information on the delegate assembly, so we'll put this out, the weekly update, right? We can, or no, does this become?
Well, we have to vote on a
Vote on it,
delegate,
right?
so.
So we have to have this to the next meeting. So if anybody too is interested, we've heard from a few of you about the delegate assembly and the convention, which is coming up quickly, the 17th. Please let us know if you're still interested in attending that, so Carissa can sign, make sure everybody's signed up that wants to make sure that they're going. So again, that's Friday the 17th and Saturday the 18th. So rapidly approaching.
Delegate is the 16th.
Delegate is Thursday night, Thursday afternoon, evening is 16th, correct. If you'd like to go to that, just please let Carissa know or myself, text me whatever you need to do and we'll get you signed up for that. And that was it. No, Annalise had to leave early
Yeah.
tonight, so.
Thanks, Gav. So, Annalise and Mariana just.
Just really very quick update, the app facility use software, the new one, ML Schedules, I think that's going really well. I think everyone seems to be using it. It's much more user friendly. So I think that has gone well. I will be transitioning it to my secretary now that I think it's off and on the ground and running for her to kind of oversee and administer. And then just the Munis training is actually going well from our end on our perspective here. We are moving along. We are starting some more, we have some in-depth training and then we'll start again probably toward the end of November. So as far as I'm concerned, we're gonna be on schedule to go live on July 1st on the Board of Ed side. We actually have the system up and running. I have our chart, we have our chart of accounts in there, so it is definitely progressing. So I'm very happy about that. Just wanted to let you guys know that payroll will not be until January of 25, because we want it to be we want it to start on a calendar year, so we just have one W-2 instead of 2 W-2s. And we really have to get the general ledger going first, get that up and running. And then I will bring on the student activity module as well, hopefully in like September, October. So everything is on one accounting system, food services, all of the school activity funds, as well as our aquatics, everything will be on one system versus having separate systems throughout the district. That's it. So if anyone has any questions.
And move on to committee reports. We had a AAA meeting before this meeting. Bill? do you have
Yeah, real quick. So if you didn't know, we had our first climate culture district-wide meeting last week on Thursday. It took place at the middle school at the Meeting House, Kiva, or is that the right?
Meeting House, yep.
Which was the perfect venue, I think. It was well attended and incredibly well facilitated by Annalise. We were on task every moment from when people walked in the door. And I think there was some really good energy in the room. We got a lot of information from folks, so I'm looking forward to our next meeting with that. And we basically just discussed how that meeting went and how we can follow up with some emails and thank yous and some questions to make sure we keep the boat on course. We have a boat theme going with that. And we also did take a minute to take a second look at some of the survey data that was consolidated from our recent survey. So, and we were kind of looking at that and trying to figure out how we're gonna weave that into our climate and culture committee meeting coming up in January. I think that's pretty much.
Oh, not a question, but I just wanted to give you feedback because I got feedback from two different people that were very positive about the meeting and thought that it was very, very well.
That's nice to hear.
Yes.
I had it felt there was a decent vibe there.
Thanks, Bill. And then, Jamie, anything from Jamie?
Jeff talked about the delegate assembly and the convention. There's a webinar coming up. Yeah, the end of November, I believe, on religion and holidays in schools and how to talk about it and address it. I went through that, was pretty interesting. If you want details, I think we got emails, but if you didn't, let me know and I'll forward the email to you.
Okay, great, thanks, Jamie. And moving on to board comments and future agenda items. Candace?
I just wanted to relay for Stars and STEMs, they're going to be having some more workshops open for November. And I think once things die down a little bit, I'll be able to attend at least one. And I'll throw out an invite, maybe some other board members would like to go with me. And or just go solely on your own, if it's not sent as far as the dates. I'll send it over, that way everybody can take a look.
Yeah, those flyers will be in the sways.
That's what I was gonna
Friday, yep.
say, yep, I know
Just
that,
got those today.
you know, the district's doing a great job of kind of helping and partnering and that type of thing, so. Just wanted to relay that.
Great. Other board comments? Agenda items? Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained. Good night, everyone.
Night, everybody. Thank you very much.
It's vanilla ice cream to go in my